Have you ever met someone who instantly lights up a room, and someone else who somehow dims it the second they enter? It's strange, isn't it? How two people can walk in with the same smile, the same confidence, yet one lifts your spirit, and the other quietly drains it. This video isn't about bitterness. It's about finally seeing clearly what you've been feeling all along and trusting that feeling. Now, listen closely, because if you've been around long enough, and I know you have, you've already learned this truth the hard way. Not everyone who smiles at you is a friend, and not every hand you hold is meant to hold yours back. You've given your time, you've given your patience, you've even given your peace. But life is far too short to keep investing those priceless things into women who leave you constantly doubting yourself, women who confuse you, who drain your energy, or leave you replaying every conversation just to figure out what you did wrong. Especially the ones who hide behind beauty, charm, or that flawless, socially polished mask that looks perfect on the outside, but underneath, it's all misdirection and emotional exhaustion. Today's video is your reality check. We're going to walk through 6 clear, uncheckable signs of toxic female behavior, red flags you cannot afford to ignore. Because this isn't about judgment, this is about self-respect. It's about protecting your space, your peace, and your power. You're not here to be someone's emotional cushion. You're here to build a life, and the people around you should either add to that or step aside. As Marcus Aurelius wisely said, the happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts and the people you allow into your life, especially the ones you let close shape those thoughts more than you realize. Earlier, we talked about the kind of woman who drains you slowly behind a mask of charm and grace. Now let's dig into the first unmistakable sign, one that many good men don't catch until they're already in too deep. 1. She's always the victim. And I mean always. It doesn't matter who the story involves: a stranger in traffic, a co-worker at the office, her best friend of 2 decades, or her last 3 exes. Somehow, someway, she's always the one who was mistreated, misunderstood, or betrayed. You might find yourself sitting across from her, sipping coffee, nodding as she speaks, maybe even feeling a bit protective. She's compelling, no doubt. Her stories are vivid, her voice sincere. She paints herself as someone the world has constantly wronged. At first, you might think, wow, she's been through so much. Maybe she just needs someone who finally treats her right. That's the trap, but stay around long enough, and a pattern starts to emerge. The more she talks, the more it becomes clear. This isn't about healing, it's about power. It's about controlling the narrative and eventually controlling you. I remember a man named Tom, a genuinely good man, steady, kind, level-headed. After his divorce, he met a woman like this. She seemed refreshingly open at first. She shared everything: how her ex lied and manipulated her, how her boss never promoted her because he feared strong women, how her family always took her sister's side while leaving her to suffer in silence. Tom admired her resilience. He admired the fact that she had survived so much. Or so it seemed. But as the months passed, the stories didn't stop, they just repeated. Same script, different characters. Every friend was toxic. Every workplace ended unfairly. Every relationship ended in betrayal. And slowly Tom realized he wasn't her partner. He was just the latest character in her drama. When he agreed with her, he was her hero. But the moment he challenged her story or gently suggested that maybe she had some part to play in all this, he instantly became the villain. That's when things turned dangerous. A Woman who constantly sees herself as the victim refuses to take any accountability. She reshape events, twist facts, and rewrite entire situations to keep herself at the center of suffering. And if you get close to her, she'll cast you in the next chapter, often as the person who fails her, who never understands her, no matter what you do. It's a cycle. A draining, emotionally exhausting cycle. And this is where Stoic wisdom becomes essential. As Marcus Aurelius reminded us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. But a woman locked in victimhood refuses that power. She hands over the reins of her life to circumstances and expects you to carry the emotional weight she won't carry herself. She will pull from your energy, your patience, and if you're not grounded, she quietly steals your peace of mind too. So what can you do? You see it for what it is. You stop trying to be her savior. You stop taking responsibility for pain she won't even try to heal. You stay rooted in logic, not led by guilt. You offer compassion, but with boundaries. #2. She's addicted to drama. You'll feel this one before you fully understand it. It's a tension in your chest, a twist in your gut. You might not see the signs clearly at first, but you'll feel them. Because this isn't about someone who has the occasional emotional reaction. We all have moments like that. No, this is about a woman whose life is like a never-ending performance one. She writes, directs, and stars in all at once. And she's constantly rewriting the script to keep the spotlight on her. If life gets too calm, too quiet, too normal, she'll find a reason to disrupt it. She'll light a match, watch it burn, and then act shocked that there's smoke. Why? Because to her, peace feels like boredom. Stillness makes her restless, and conflict? That's where she feels most alive. The cycle usually begins subtly. One evening, you're both having a quiet night, everything seems fine. Then out of nowhere, she's upset because you didn't text her back fast enough. Or maybe you seemed distracted while she was telling a story. Suddenly, it's not about the message or the moment. It's about you pulling away, not caring or being different. What started as a calm night spirals into a confusing, emotionally charged argument. You spend hours trying to explain yourself, replaying your words, apologizing for something you don't fully understand. By the end, you're exhausted. But strangely, she seems more alive than ever. That's the thing about people who thrive on drama. It fuels them. It gives them a sense of control. The chaos becomes their comfort zone because it keeps everything revolving around their emotions. And you're just trying to keep up. From a Stoic perspective, this behavior is understandable, though no less dangerous. Seneca once said, "An angry man opens his mouth and shuts his eyes." And that's exactly what happens here. A woman addicted to drama isn't searching for peace or understanding. She's chasing the emotional high that comes from chaos. Truth and resolution take a backseat to the adrenaline of the argument. She becomes blind to reason, driven by impulse. She's not seeking connection, she's seeking stimulation. And if you happen to be the nearest source of that stimulation, you'll be caught in the emotional crossfire. The real danger? How easy it is to get pulled in. You might convince yourself you're helping, that you're calming the storm. But, in truth, you've become a character in her script. Whether you mean to or not, you're now part of the act. And over time, it wears you down. It chips away at your stillness, your sense of clarity, and eventually your identity. You become reactive. Anxious, walking on eggshells, waiting for the next explosion. And when a man loses that inner stillness, he loses his greatest power. So what's the solution? Distance. Not always physical, at least not at first. But emotional distance is key. Learn to observe without jumping in. Let her storm rage, but don't become the lightning rod. As Epictetus wisely taught, we cannot control others. We can only control how we respond, and sometimes, the strongest response is silence, space, and the refusal to fuel the fire. You don't owe anyone your energy just because they're loud. You're not required to play a role in their chaos. Your role, especially as a man rooted in Stoic strength, is to stay grounded, calm, steady, and most of all, free. Number 3. She controls through guilt. Now here's something most people don't realize. Studies show guilt activates the same regions in the brain as physical pain. That tight feeling in your chest, that sinking weight in your stomach, it's real. It's not just in your head. And sadly, the wrong kind of woman knows exactly how to create that feeling without raising her voice or saying a single harsh word. At first, it doesn't even feel manipulative. Maybe she gets a little quiet when you cancel dinner to finish an important project. Maybe she seems disappointed when you mention needing some space, just a weekend to clear your head. You tell yourself, she's just sensitive. Maybe I should reassure her, and so, you do. You cancel your plans. You shuffle your priorities. You give up small, meaningful pieces of your own life just to avoid that look in her eyes. You know the one. That quiet stare that says, I thought I mattered more than your work. I thought I was your priority. She doesn't have to say it out loud. Her silence, her subtle sighs, her withdrawn affection, they say enough. Slowly, you begin to feel like you're failing her, even when you've done nothing wrong. You find yourself explaining your actions, not because they need explaining, but because you're afraid she'd pull away. You're no longer acting from logic or values, you're reacting, trying to avoid guilt. That creeping, heavy guilt that follows you anytime you choose you over her. And this is how she maintains control. Not with commands, not with open demands, but with moods, with distance, with well-timed silence. It's not a conversation, it's a transaction. Guilt becomes the currency. And every time you pay by sacrificing your time, your peace, your truth, she expects a little more. You begin to notice you're explaining your choices more than you're making them. You feel like you're being cast as the villain anytime you don't meet her unspoken expectations. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, you stop being yourself. You stop acting freely. You start playing a role one she wrote for you and expects you to stick to. But here's where Stoic philosophy brings clarity. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And that's exactly the point. The moment guilt begins to steer your decisions, you've already surrendered a part of your freedom. Guilt clouds your judgment. It turns thoughtful men into anxious ones. It makes you forget who you are and what you stand for. So what's the answer? You don't need to fight. You don't need to argue. You need to set boundaries firm but calm. You need to act from reason, not fear. You give only what you choose to give, not what you're pressured to give. Not to avoid punishment, but because it aligns with your values, your truth, your integrity. And when she tries to pull those familiar strings, when the sighs return, or the silence sets in, you don't chase. You don't explain. You remain steady, still, unmoved. A man who knows his values, who lives by them, is unshakable. We just talked about the quiet power of a man who refuses to be manipulated by guilt, who stays grounded in his values, unshaken. by emotional games. But there's another trait that cuts even deeper, especially when life hits hard: the absence of empathy. -4. She lacks empathy. This is a truth every man eventually learns, usually the hard way. At some point in life, no matter how strong or successful you are, life will knock you down. Maybe it's the loss of someone you love. Maybe your health takes a sudden turn. Maybe your business crumbles when you least expect it. It's in those raw, vulnerable moments that people show their true character. That's when you see clearly who's really standing beside you and who is only there for the sunshine. Woman who lacks empathy won't be there when it matters most. Or worse, she'd be there physically, but emotionally checked out, just going through the motions because she thinks it's what a partner should do. You'll notice it early if you're paying attention. Maybe one day you open up just a little about feeling burned out after a brutal week, and she barely looks up from her phone. Maybe she nods for half a second before turning the conversation right back to her day, usually something surface level or self-focused. Or maybe you share something personal, something real, something that took courage to say out loud. And instead of leaning in, holding space, or even just listening, she shrugs it off like it was nothing. As if your vulnerability was just background noise. There's a distance there. And not the kind you can explain. It's something you feel in your gut. It's not just that she doesn't understand. It's that she doesn't care to. A man I deeply respect once told me about the woman he dated after losing his wife. At first, she seemed supportive, sweet, attentive. But when the depth of his grief finally surfaced, when he really needed someone to simply be there with him in that quiet darkness, she pulled away. Not physically, but emotionally she disappeared. She couldn't sit in the silence. She couldn't meet him where he was. She became impatient, uncomfortable. She offered quick fixes, shallow advice, then pivoted the conversation back to herself, her plans, her frustrations, her world. And eventually, he realized something painful. He felt lonelier sitting beside her than he ever did sitting alone. That's the cost of being with someone who lacks empathy. Their presence becomes hollow. And when your heart is heavy, that kind of hollow presence hurts more than solitude ever could. Now, let's return to Stoic wisdom. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." To that, I'd add this: waste no more time hoping someone will become what they've already shown they are not. Empathy isn't something you can teach or beg for. It can't be coached into someone through long talks or second chances. It's either there or it's not. And when it's missing, you'll feel it not just in your mind, but deep in your bones. A woman with empathy doesn't need to solve your problems. She doesn't even have to say much. Her calm presence, her sincerity, that quiet strength beside you is enough to remind you that you're not alone. But a woman without empathy, she can sit right next to you, and you'll feel 1,000 miles apart. So if you find yourself constantly making excuses for her emotional distance, especially during your lowest moments, pause, reflect, ask yourself, am I being met with presence? Or am I carrying everything alone? Because Stoicism teaches us to face reality, not fantasy. To accept what is, not what we wish it could be. And the truth is this: if she cannot meet you with compassion in your hardest seasons, she won't weather the storms that life will inevitably bring. Now let's move into the fifth red flag: a quieter poison, but one that slowly eats away at your soul over time. #5. She's obsessed with superficial things. This one is easy to dismiss early on. After all, who doesn't enjoy nice things? But over time, it becomes clear, this isn't just about taste or style. This is about identity. You'll begin to notice her entire sense of self-worth is wrapped in how things look, not what they mean. She doesn't just like material things, she depends on them. Her joy is measured by the size of the house, the brand of the shoes, the number of likes on her latest post. And while none of these things are inherently wrong with her, they're treated as if they define reality. To her, status isn't a detail, it's the destination. Approval, image, superiority, these aren't side effects. They're the goal. She doesn't evaluate life by what's meaningful, but by what can be displayed. And slowly, without realizing it, you become a prop in her performance. At first, it may seem harmless. You might say, she just likes quality. Or, she has high standards. But the truth is deeper. It's not about the things, it's about what they represent to her. Value to her is external, appearances, labels, and eventually, she starts judging you by the same shallow metric. You'll feel like you're stuck in an unspoken competition, one you never agreed to join. Whether you make 6 figures or 7, whether you drive a dependable pickup or a luxury SUV, it doesn't matter. Because someone, somewhere, always has more. And she's always scanning, always comparing, always climbing toward some moving finish line. The Stoics warned us about this mindset. Long ago, Epictetus said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." But a woman consumed by status will never feel wealthy, no matter how much she has. Because what she's really chasing isn't the object. It's the momentary rush, the fleeting feeling of being enough. And once that fades, she's off chasing the next dot. It's like pouring water into a broken jar. No matter how much you give, nothing stays. She's not just seeking beauty or luxury. She's addicted to externals, and if you tie yourself to someone like that, you'll be dragged into that endless loop too. You'll constantly feel like you're not measuring up, even when you're giving everything you've got. Here's the core lesson from Stoicism: externals are indifferent. That's what Marcus Aurelius called them, things indifferent. They do not add or subtract from your worth as a man. Because true worth isn't measured in labels or square footage. It's measured in character, in virtue, in how you live and what you stand for. But a woman obsessed with appearances will never see that in you. No matter how deeply you live by your principles, she won't notice because she doesn't look beneath the surface. Seneca said it plainly: "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor." And by that measure, a woman obsessed with surface-level validation is the poorest companion of all. Not because she lacks possessions, but because she never knows peace. And if she can't find peace within herself, she won't be able to offer it to you. And for a man living by Stoic principles, peace is the one thing you protect above all. In the last section, we uncovered how a woman obsessed with appearances will quietly drain your energy, not through conflict, but through endless comparison, constant chasing, and emotional emptiness. When someone values how life looks over how it feels, your peace becomes collateral damage. Sometimes the wisest thing you can do is leave, not out of bitterness but out of deep respect for your own well-being. And now we come to the final sign, one that may seem small in the beginning, but over time, it erodes the very foundation of trust. #6. She can't admit she's wrong. This one usually reveals itself in the little things. A casual disagreement, a misunderstanding, A moment that should have been resolved with a quick, honest conversation. But instead, it spirals. And not because of what was said, but because she cannot admit fault. Not ever. You can lay out the facts clearly. You can explain your side with calm, steady logic. You could even show her undeniable proof evidence, so obvious a child would understand it, but somehow, she still find a way to twist the narrative and come out as the victim or the victor. And if facts don't serve her position, she changes the rules entirely. Suddenly, the disagreement isn't about the actual issue anymore. Now it's about how you made her feel, or how you always do this, or how you never listen. The original topic disappears under a title. Wave of emotional deflection. At first, you might think, maybe she's just having a rough day. Or maybe this is just pride. But if you look closer, you'll notice the pattern. She never takes responsibility. Even when it's small, even when it's obvious, she will defend a poor choice, a sharp word, a careless oversight, because to her, being wrong equals being weak. And weakness is something she cannot tolerate, even in herself. But the root of this behavior runs deeper than pride. Psychologically, people who cannot accept blame often suffer from fragile self-esteem. Admitting fault feels like admitting they're unworthy. It threatens their identity. So instead, they protect that fragile self-image at all costs, even if it means destroying trust, closeness, or communication in the process. But here's the hidden cost. When someone makes being right more important than being real, they lose the chance to grow, because a person who cannot admit they're wrong cannot learn. And if they cannot learn, they cannot evolve. The Stoics understood this with piercing clarity. Marcus Aurelius once said, "If anyone can refute me, show me I am making a mistake or looking at things from the wrong perspective. Gladly change, it's the truth I'm after." Now that is wisdom. The kind of wisdom that says, correction is not an attack, it's an opportunity. But when you're in a relationship with someone who refuses that truth, you'll always be the one trying to stay calm. You'll always be the one trying to see both sides, to carry the emotional burden, to escalate. It's exhausting. And it's lonely. Because what should be a partnership becomes a silent power struggle. A game of control disguised as conversation. The irony? By refusing to admit fault, she loses the very thing that gives relationships meaning, growth, mutual understanding, and love. So what do you do? As a Stoic man, clarity becomes your compass. You choose humility. You choose truth. You choose a partner not because she's perfect, but because she's willing to be imperfect. Brave enough to say the words, "I was wrong." Without that, there's no relationship. Only competition. And life is far too short to spend it competing with the person who's supposed to be your peace. In the last part, we saw how refusing to admit fault turns relationships into battles instead of partnerships, and how walking away isn't a sign of defeat, but of self-respect. When reason has no space to breathe, time only deepens the divide. As Seneca wisely said, only time can heal what reason cannot. But when reason is never invited to the conversation, time becomes a weapon, not a remedy. The answer is simple, though never easy. Seek someone who understands that saying, "I was wrong," is not weakness, it's wisdom. And if she can't offer that, then you must walk away. Not with rage, but with resolve. And now, we come to the seventh sign. One that often hides behind good intentions, charm, or simply poor habits, but reveals something deeper. Number 7. She disrespects. Your time. If life has taught you anything by now, it's this. Time is sacred. Money, you can earn it back. Health, you can fight to restore it. But time, once it's spent, it's gone forever. No refunds. No do-overs. So when a woman consistently disrespects your time, it's not just inconsiderate, it's dangerous. Dangerous to your peace, your energy, your emotional clarity. Because time isn't just minutes on a clock, it's your life. And she won't steal it in loud, dramatic ways. She steals it quietly, slowly, in excuses, delays, and cancellations that seem harmless until years have slipped through your fingers. I remember a man named Richard, an old colleague of mine from Houston. He was in his mid-50s, a sharp, respected contractor. Built his business from the ground up. Disciplined, dependable, the kind of man other men looked up to. But in his personal life, there was a different story. He started seeing a woman named Elise. She was beautiful, warm, charming, the kind of woman who knew exactly how to make a man feel seen. But there was a pattern. And like most patterns, it started small. She was often late. First, it was 10 minutes, then 20, then 40. Sometimes she'd cancel plans at the last minute. She wasn't feeling well, something came up, or she just forgot. Other times she wouldn't show up at all. Richard, being the calm and generous man he was, brushed it off at first. Life gets busy, right? We've all been there. But weeks turned into months. And slowly, Richard's life started to revolve around hers. He'd rearrange job sites and delay projects just to see her. He waited alone at restaurants more times than he could count. He started skipping fishing weekends with old friends, plans he used to love, because Elise asked him to keep his schedule open, only for her to bail at the last moment. And I'll never forget one afternoon, we were grabbing coffee, and he was just staring at his phone, quiet. She'd canceled again, no reason, no apology. He didn't say much. He just looked up and said, "Man, I feel like I'm always waiting." And that's the thing, isn't it? When someone doesn't respect your time, they don't respect your life. It doesn't always come with loud arguments or harsh words. Sometimes it just comes with silence, delay, and disregard. And you wake up one day wondering where all your energy went and realizing you gave it to someone who never valued it in the first place. Earlier, we left off with Richard's quiet realization. I feel like I'm always waiting. That's what happens when someone disrespects your time. It's not just the hours you lose sitting in a cafe or waiting on a reply. It's the mental weight, the emotional fog, the slow erosion of your own sense of worth. And worst of all, if you're not careful, you'll start to believe that this is normal, that you're the one who needs to be more patient, more flexible, that this is just how relationships work now. But a Stoic man knows better. Seneca once said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." And that is the truth Richard eventually faced. Elise wasn't busy. She wasn't forgetful. She simply didn't value his time, because deep down, she didn't value him. And the hard truth? He had allowed it by not valuing his own time. First, the solution isn't about ultimatums, shouting, or playing games. It's about clarity. It's about recognizing that your time is your life. And if you want to protect your peace, your purpose, and your self-respect, you must protect your minutes with the same intensity. Woman who truly honors you will honor your time. She will show up on time, with presence, with care. She'd treat your energy as something sacred. Because it is. Epictetus asked a timeless question. How long are you going to wait before you demand the best for yourself? Richard stopped waiting, and so should you, because time wasted is life wasted. And life, my friend, is far too precious to spend it in places or with people who don't recognize its value. So choose peace, choose clarity, and above all, choose yourself. If you've made it this far, thank you for being part of this journey. I'd love to hear about your story, your reflections, your breakthroughs, or even the challenges you faced. Drop a comment below and let's build a space where men grow stronger together. And hey, if you're not sure what to write, just type, "I love this." That one line tells me you stayed till the end and that you're part of this brotherhood of wisdom and strength. I've left 2 more videos here for you. Keep learning, keep evolving, and I'll see you in the next one.